An age ago, the beating heart of our people was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars, for out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled, our heart has returned, and the world will burn.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? I figured I would try to do an earlier live stream than I normally do. Usually it's somewhere towards 10 to 11, maybe even midnight that I do a live stream. So I thought I'd check out, see how many people were around earlier in the evening, just in case there were people who couldn't get that far into the evening for one of my live streams. I'm going to put up some of the background, just like last week, of Thomas Valiant. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have opened last week a second chance campaign for Thomas Valiant #1, which was the book that shipped last year. And it is, let's see, it's up on Indiegogo right now, and it gives you a chance to get the first issue, the first printing of Thomas Valiant #1, which will be signed by me, which was the offer for the original Thomas Valiant in the original campaign. So you can get that again, because how you doing? Someone's in the chat. Thank you very much for letting me know that you're there. So if you have any questions about anything at all, I'm just going to talk about a couple of my books right now. But if anybody has any questions at all, just let me know. Just put them in the chat. And if you could put a question mark there for me, just so I know you're talking to me and not someone else, that'd be great. But the campaign, the second chance campaign is up. And let's see if I can put for you the campaign heading in the chat, because I forgot to put it in the description. So give me 1 second here. I'll put it in the chat for anybody who wants to go and take a look at the second chance campaign for Thomas Valiant #1. Like I said, the reason why I'm doing this is because I had a overprinting of the books for actually a couple of reasons. So I do have about 250 books left from that campaign, which I know that I eventually will sell, because I do sell them with other campaigns. But at the same time, this is the first printing, and it has, in the legalese, it is first printing. It says right on the back. And it also will be signed by me. So it's the last chance you'll be able to get that edition signed by me, which was the same that you got with the original campaign. And of course, all of the pin posters, some of which you're looking at right now, were there or are there in the second chance campaign that were there with the original campaign. There is the Valiant Heroes, one done by Renzo Rodriguez. There's the Legion of Justice, which is a bit of a misnomer because they're not the good guys. And that's what you're looking at right now, done by Renzo Rodriguez. And there's also, let's see, there is a Phantasm done by Renzo. There is a Phantasm done by Nick Axe, which was the biggest seller of all. There is the map. There's also the Nick Axe disc poster, which in the original campaign was a perk that you got, everybody got because it was a stretch goal, but you can order it through this campaign now. And there's also the trading cards. There's a set of 12 trading cards that you can get if you order from that campaign, as well as I have about, I think, 6 scripts left, which is basically it's an entire separate graphic novel. It's in graphic novel format. It looks like a graphic novel. It's printed on the same paper. It's just mostly text. There's some extra art from Renzo Rodriguez, but that's what it is if you order that. I see I do have a couple of comments. We have Genuine Comics in the chat, and also says, "Hey RJ, got to head to work soon, but I thought I would drop a hello. Thank you very much. Thank you. Got to say that the art for Thomas Valiant reminds me of Barry Kitson. Well, I honestly think that Renzo's art reminds me of an early George Perez when he was doing the Legion of Superheroes. So when George Perez was just starting to sneak into DC, that's what it looked like to me when Renzo originally gave me examples of his work, and that's when I knew that yeah, this is the guy that needs to do the art for me, because that's the kind of clean art that I want. John Byrne kind of style, a George Perez kind of style, which is heavy on the detail of individual characters and backgrounds in a way that you don't see within a lot of other artists. And Renzo does have that. I know that my other artist, Jim O'Reilly, who's doing the CROM book, he does detail in a different fashion. I just put it that way. Not that it's not as clean. They both have very clean lines, but at the same time, Renzo's is much more of a superhero genre kind of way of art, whereas Jim's has a gritty feel to it with angular bits in it, especially with the weapons and things like that. He does an amazing job. But yes, Renzo's art fits this book perfectly. And let's see. Genuine Comics says, you found a good artist with Renzo. Yes, I did. Lucky enough that I shouted out on my YouTube channel during one of my videos that I needed an artist. Funny thing is that I was supposed to do a live stream this week or last week, actually, with Clint from Sweetcast. And Clint's artist is Charlie Snogans. And Charlie was actually supposed to do the art for Thomas Valiant #1. He had contacted me first before anyone else and said, hey, man, you want to do a project with me? Next time you are starting something, let me know, because I hadn't even put a book out at that point. He said he wanted to do it with me because he was moving out of what he was doing at the time, which funny enough was the same thing Renzo was doing, which was advertising. And he said that he wanted to do the book with me, but it took me so long to get everything in order that by that time he wanted to do something else. He wanted to get his hand into drawing and in a book that was going to get out sooner rather than later. And so he went with what is it, Fatal, which is Clint's book. And so since he was doing that, he didn't have time to do Thomas Valiant #1 in the timeline that I was looking to have it done. So I'm sorry. I just there's a question there. Mrs. Maria says, will you fix the website? What website? I'm just wondering. My website, which is bare bones. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, we just threw that thing up. Me and Nick Axe, who is the artist who did the covers for most of my books. So we were hoping to have that as a backup, and so people could find us if that's the website that you're talking about, or were you talking about the Indiegogo? Not entirely sure, because I know it could be one or the other. The Indiegogo for my second campaign, which was the Valiant Heroes, of course, was shadow banned. So that was a problem for me. And at the same time, I don't think there was as much traffic on the Valiant Heroes campaign. Certainly not anywhere near what we saw within the Thomas Valiant one. So yeah, there's plenty of website problems that I've been having. I agree. Oh, look, there's Bancroft. See, I knew that I would get earlier people if I did a stream earlier in the evening. I just wanted to do that to see who would show up. And I'll give a shout out to Michael Bancroft. His book, which is The Lucent, is going for, I think, not really a second chance campaign, but over to Kickstarter to see who we can pull in from there, which is a very smart idea. I was just telling him on Twitter that I have plans to do the same thing, just to see what kind of different customer base might be over there. Because again, we're struggling with trying to get our books out, and the biggest thing to do is to connect with people. And so, as many platforms as you can use, it's great. So, if you're looking for a copy of The Lucent, which is Michael Bancroft's book, if you know him from Late Night with Comic Skate, which was really one of my biggest introductions to doing live streams, which thank you very much, Michael. So go on over to, it's not up yet, if I do remember correctly, but the Lucent is going to go up on Kickstarter. So if you want to stick that in the link for it, or the early bird link for it in the comments, Michael, you go right ahead. But great book. I have that book. I ordered it from the first campaign. The Thomas Valiant webpage. I don't really, again, what's the problem with the Thomas Valiant webpage? I'm just asking Miss Maria. She was saying there's a problem. So, Michael's also says that his Kickstarter will start in May, which is great. I think that the CROM, the Destroyer, is going to go up around the 4th of July. I might not do it exactly on the 4th of July because people are, doing plenty of other things. I would love to, if I can, or if it's going to interfere with a lot of other things, then I might not, but that's the plan. So, yeah, that's the plan for CROM the Destroyer. We're going up on Kickstarter around the 4th of July. We have the second chance up for Thomas Valiant right now on Indiegogo. Sorry, the CROM is going up on Indiegogo, not on Kickstarter. That my mistake. But I will be looking to put all my campaigns up on Kickstarter, just again to pull in a different audience, because I know that people sometimes only go exclusively to Kickstarter and don't even look at Indiegogo. I myself, I rarely ever look at anything on Kickstarter unless it's from someone I really trust, and then I'll go over and take a look. Otherwise, I won't even bother sifting through their stuff to see what's there. So, there can be a different audience there that will not be on Indiegogo. So that's what we're looking for. So Puffy says, howdy, how you doing? Great. I'm doing great. Let's see who else is in the chat. We got a couple of people trickling in here. We have John saying hello to Genuine Comics, and we have Paul. And let's see. Paul says something about an Indian chief and a spirit animal. So, again, if you have any questions about any of my campaigns or anything, even stuff that I'm doing on my channel, you go right ahead and throw it in the comments. Like I said, I want to throw this up for people who usually can't get to the later hour of my normal live streams. So as I was speaking about CROM the Destroyer, again, probably going up on the 4th of July or around the 4th of July on Indiegogo. The campaign for the Valiant Heroes is still up right now on Indiegogo. The second chance campaign for Thomas Valiant is up on Indiegogo, but I will be putting some of those campaigns later on in the year up on Kickstarter. But there will be changes within the campaigns. I don't think I'll offer as much as I do on Indiegogo on Kickstarter because, I want, honestly, the people on Indiegogo who are the people who really support me, I want them to get extra. You're obviously not going to get the things like the stretch goals, because I don't think we're going to make anywhere near as much for those secondary campaigns. So you're not going to get the stretch goals that you would get on Indiegogo from the original campaigns. So let's see. So I was going to talk about, if anybody has any questions, like I said, just throw them on up there. But I was going to talk about the process for doing the story for Thomas Valiant #1, because I haven't talked about that in a long time. And since I'm trying to push people towards that campaign, if you haven't ordered any of the books, and I know that I do have people contacting me every once in a while saying, where can I get the book? Where can I get the book? So the thing about it is that it is my attempt to do something like an amalgam universe, which was the squishing together of Marvel and DC in the 1990s. I think it was 1996. So basically, what I looked at when I saw these characters in Marvel and DC and mainstream comics and current comics right now, it really made me say that they were they were just destroying these characters, right? Honestly, I just by chance I heard on the radio, what was it? Three to no, Superman by who is it? What's the name of the band? It's from the 1990s. Oh, for the life of me, I can't remember. But anyways, that song about Superman, it made me sad. It made me really sad, even though it is a sad sounding song, just because the Superman that they describe in that song no longer exists within DC Comics. And that is an extremely sad thing. So I wanted to bring back some of these real traditional heroes, wanted to bring them back into the form that they should be in as actual heroes, because that's what I'm all about. I'm all about the traditional idea of a hero. I want those traditional ideas. I want a traditional Superman who is, a gentleman, who is going to go out there and fight for truth, justice in the American way, no matter what it's going to cost him. No, it's not Three Doors Down. That's Kryptonite, which is a different song. So I think it's a Crash Test Dummies, which is the song that I'm thinking of. But yeah, I wanted those original heroes, and so since I can't get those original heroes, I thought, okay, and I want to do stories like Marvel and DC stories at the same time. So I thought I'll create a universe where I take usually two characters, one from Marvel and one from DC, and I'll squish them together. And sometimes I take in other little bits of things from other places, sometimes from Dungeons and Dragons, sometimes from anime, things like that, and just put them in there. But that's usually what I do with a character. So you're going to look at these characters and go, I can see this character. A lot of people say this is just a ripoff of X, Y, and Z characters. And I'm going, no, it's an homage to X, Y, and Z characters, because I'm taking these two different characters that I love, putting them together and making a third character, which again, I won't get sued for because it's a totally different character. But at the same time, they're clear enough and familiar enough so that you can look at it and say, I can jump right into the action because I know the basic parameters of this character. One of the characters is Gray Jay, which is basically a smash together of Nightwing and Daredevil. Two characters I love, but two characters that are not getting justice done for their stories right now. And so I created that character. And basically from the look of this character, you're looking at it right now. He's the one in the center. You're looking at this character and going, okay, I know the basic idea of this character and what it's able to do. So I don't need to spend a whole lot of time doing backstory. And again, someone had asked me, why didn't I put in the origin story of all these characters? Why do I jump right into the action? Well, first of all, I like jumping right into the action. I think action is more what is needed. We need a counterbalance to all this nonsensical talking within comics right now that you get in Marvel and DC. And so I want action, action, action. Everybody needs to have that as a counterbalance, first of all. And secondary, because I'm giving you the origin of their heroism, not of their powers. But thirdly, because of course, it is something that you're going to be able to jump into because you already recognize what their powers are, or at the very least, you recognize the characters that they're drawn from, and you can infer on your own. So I'm trusting my audience to actually have that and to have their own ability to add that part into the story. So again, I will be probably going back to, well, I will be, there's no probably about it, going back to older stories with these characters and talking about their origins and things like that. If they continue to sell, we already have one, as I said last week, Don Chin collaborated with me and did a story. It's mostly his story because he does parodies, and I wanted to do a funny type story of Kit Fox, which is basically a campy version of an old, let's say 60s Batman kind of story. But anyways, I'm going on a little bit too much. I'll see if there's any comments here or any questions in the chat that you guys have been asking me. So I try not to look at the screen when I go off on a tangent, just because if I start reading, I'll lose my train of thought completely. So I have Mystic says, your videos have helped shape how I currently approach my superhero novel series, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you for that comment. I hopefully am trying to introduce people who are not familiar with the great stories of comic books of the, I would say, 80s and partially the 90s, if you weren't around at that time, to introduce you to, at the very least, my take on how they were beautiful stories and great stories and told stories. So that other people are using my videos to be constructive is an honor. So let's see, going down, talking about the song I was trying to remember. Let's see. Paul says Superman is dead. Well, in DC, I'd say Superman is dead. Yeah. So Puffy says, I'm not sure if this question is for me. I think it is. Have you noticed how Hollywood's been race swapping redheads for black people, i.e., Annie, Ariel, Batgirl? If you have noticed, why do you think they do this? Do they just hate the Irish? I don't know. It's just, I really don't know why it seems to be redheads. Again, I have a redhead in my book, and people were there. Great, have a redhead. You need that. She goes a little bit insane, but hey, at the same time, I don't know if it's just because of the fact that I redheads are the prototypical white person, because usually when you have red hair, you also have very light skin. So maybe that's it. But other than that, I don't know. So scrolling down, let's see. Michael's speaking. Ah, darn it. My screen jumped for 1 second here. Hopefully I'm not digitizing at all and everybody can hear me very well. I don't know. Usually I leave it till later on in the evening to do my live streams, partly because I use satellite internet, and there's a lot of people online in the evening right after around 5 o'clock. So I didn't know how well it would be received and how much power I would have to do a clear live stream. So let's see. Scrolling down. Let's see. Sound Engravers here says, "What's up, RJ?" Not a whole lot. I just wanted to see who was out and about on YouTube at this time of day. So hopefully I can get a little bit more of an audience that I don't get in the later hours of the night. Let's see. Story making is going well. I have an announcement. I don't know what's going to come of this because, of course, I'm going to submit some things, and just because you submit them doesn't mean you will get published. But I've been talking to Anvil magazine, and if you don't know, Anvil magazine is part of Iron Age Media. They just put up their first Indiegogo campaign for magazine number 1. It has a lot of different things in it. It's a compilation book, and there's a lot of different things. It's kind of like the old Wizard magazine, but not really. I would think it's more like the old Dungeon, or I'm sorry, the old Dragon magazine. That's probably more what it is like, because you have stories, you have reviews of some books, you have a lot of different kinds of things. Anyways, so we were talking, and we had met online. I met online with one of the people who is running that campaign. So they have a campaign up for magazine number 1 for Anvil on Indiegogo. Really good stuff for Iron Age Media. And I showed him some of my CROM, the cover and the page 1, and he said, "This looks fantastic." And we're looking at putting up a promo description for CROM the Destroyer up on Iron Age Media website. For Anvil, I am going to submit a story which is basically a sidetrack to the story of CROM the Destroyer, because within CROM the Destroyer, it's going to be set up just like my other books, in that it has 3 chapters. Usually I love to do that because in the future, if I ever want to publish them as floppies, that will be the case. I'm doing this opposite the way that Marvel and DC would usually do. They publish them first as floppies and then as graphic novels. I publish them first as graphic novels and then as floppies. So they're usually 22 to 26 pages. So you can take each of those chapters, break it down into a floppy if I want to do so in the future. So since there are breaks between those chapters, there is something that happens, or at the very least, there is a downtime between 2 of the chapters. And I thought I could insert something into that downtime, because it does cover a little bit of a span of time, which would very much lead into a short story. So right now I'm answering Sound Engraver's question, probably taking me 20 minutes. But yes, creating, when I got to talk to Anvil magazine for submissions for number 2, which have not opened up yet, actually, he said, here's what we have. It's up on our website. Submissions will begin, I think, the first week of May. And I was thinking, okay, why don't I do a story in between two of these chapters about a side character that's not, going to be something that you necessarily need in order to read the story, and we could publish that possibly if they accept it in Iron Age Media's magazine, which is Anvil, and then possibly have it as a perk for part of the CROM the Destroyer campaign later on, which I think is what we're going to try to do if they actually accept it. If not, I'll probably just offer it as a perk. What I'm doing is writing a short story, very much in Robert E. Howard format. It's the descriptive, flowery language of Robert E. Howard, and it's only going to be a short story, somewhere between, I don't know. Usually, it's going to be around 10 pages. But if it gets that long, I don't think so. But I have a beautiful artist working on what I basically I'm going to sell as a pinup poster for CROM the Destroyer. He's working on it right now. He's about to start. Actually, I sent him the stuff today, and that's what inspired me to do this short story. So yeah, creating, because I've been doing all these other things, and I was redoing the second chapter of CROM the Destroyer for Nick Axe, because Jim O'Reilly, who is doing the chapter 1 art, he actually is a little bit swamped. So I'm giving him a break. So he's hopefully going to finish up chapter 1 and then move on to chapter 3. Nick Axe, who is the guy who does my cover art, who did the cover art for Thomas Valiant. And he did it for the promo stuff that we have, which is the actual cover for CROM the Destroyer, if you've seen any of that. So beautiful artist, great artist too. And I do have Mike Gustovich doing the inking for that. But again, this pinup poster, this guy, he's a pen and ink artist. So you think of art from something you'd see in the early 1900s, late 1800s. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. So, and he's used to doing fantasy and fiction stuff, which is extremely intensely done. So he's doing this picture, and I thought I should draw off of that picture to do a short story again, which will be offered as a perk at the very least within the CROM the Destroyer campaign, and which hopefully, if I get my act together and Anvil magazine accepts it, will be published in Anvil magazine as well, along with at the very least the black and white of that art, looking very much like something you would find in Dragon magazine or something you would find in the Robert E. Howard publications, things like that. So yeah. Again, that's what I'm up to right now. That's what I'm creating right now. I can't stop writing. I just can't. I love to write, and if you get me going, I will not stop. But if I stop, it's really hard to get going again. Not that if you give me a blank page, that's the best thing in the world, if you ask me. But at the same time, it's more, I got to carve up my time and make it a habit in order for me to make sure that this keeps on flowing. Because I got so many stories right now in the works. Half of them I have to stop and start because I have to work on the things that are going to be published. So let's see, we got 18 people in the chat right now. See if I get any more questions. That I know that I spent a long time on Sound Engraver's question, but I really wanted to talk about that. So when I read Thomas Valiant, I did enjoy the story, but I was kind of expecting how Thomas assembled these individuals that make up the team. Well, the thing being, again, of course, is the fact that that was actually. Let me put it this way. There is a promo video which I did for Thomas Valiant, which goes into a little bit of that. So it was my mistake, of course, to assume that everyone knew that material. And again, talking about the fact that Charlie Snogans was supposed to be part of this book to originally, there was supposed to be part of that that he was going to do, which would be a story about when Thomas Valiant first came across some of the characters, which would be Phantasm and Feral, and of course, just a little bit of hint of that. But Charlie again had to go and do Fatal with Clint Stoker, so that just never materialized. So I agree, there was a bit of a lapse there, but it's all because of I guess poor planning on my part, but at the very least, everybody was busy, and it's great that everybody who can get books out there are busy. So let's see. I'll scroll down a little bit here. Blue Sky looks cool. I think he's John Kent, son of Blue Skies. Well, here's the thing. Um, the great thing about writing these stories is that, again, I'm taking these characters and I'm mashing them together in a visual way so that I can have more than one character and it's not a direct copy of something. But who knows in the future, when some of these characters start coming into the public domain in the next 10 years, whether or not there'll be a connection there or not. We'll just have to wait and see. I plan to be making comics for the next 10, 12 years until these characters start coming into the public domain. So, I'm getting a running start at this. That's what I'm doing. So, just to give you a little hint there. Let's see. John says, RJ, do you think that the non-inspiring body shapes of the late comics has contributed to the rise of body dysmorphia? I don't know if it has. Well, yes and no. Um, Quite honestly, yes and no. There's two actual strings to pull on there. That one of them that I want to talk about, possibly within one of my Wednesday videos, if I ever get to it. Um, First of all, yes, the fact that we don't have inspiring looking characters and statues and television stars and things like that, the fact that we don't have those anymore, those are a something to look up to for kids and for everybody, really, not just kids, anybody. You see some guy, I don't know how this works for women, but for guys, I know you see some guy in an action movie, you go, I gotta go to the gym, you know. It's just that kind of idea that that's what I want to be like. And the fact that we don't have that good image up there anymore is the fact that is contributing to the fact that you see these people and they don't care about their appearance, and then you see not just a non-muscular appearance on what you see within comics and television and movies, but then you get this overweight and more than frumpy kind of body that doesn't really, I guess the best way to put it would be that isn't really healthy. And they show these things, and especially within cartoons, most cartoons within North America for the last 10, 15 years at least had the exact same dimensions for characters. It's ridiculous. And I guess the way that I would put it is that if you were to look with a classical eye at what the shape is of these characters that you see within television, within cartoons, within movies, and definitely within comic books, the actual word to use for it would be grotesque, because they're misshapen. That's what they are. They're misshapen forms of a human being, which that's the definition of grotesque. So yeah, I do think that it has fed into that, but at the same time, you have to remember that and again, like I said, I'll probably do a video on this at some point. You have to remember that the proportions, if you're looking at comic books specifically, the proportions for superheroes in comic books is not exactly what the proportions are for normal human beings. There was a guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Again, if I do a video on this, I'll probably research a little more and remember his name. But he originally did Tarzan, very early Tarzan, and he came up with body dimensions for characters in sequential art that would look better as a two-dimensional picture for the mind to understand what's going on and how the human form works and how it would look more attractive, again, in sequential art. And it's slightly elongated. So he took the proportions that you would normally get within classical representations of art for human beings, and he extended them slightly, and he had even a formula for this. And in extending them again, which it became the superhero body dimensions up until really the last 10 years, maybe 15 years. Although with stuff like Sandman or John Constantine, they took that out specifically in order to make it more realistic. So they went back to the realistic body dimensions within those kinds of Vertigo books in order to sell them as more gritty and realistic. But the superhero body dimensions were not exactly as you would have them within normal human beings. They're slightly elongated to make it more appealing to the human eye with sequential art. So there's something very much, that's a deep question that you asked there, John. I'm glad you brought that up. So scrolling down, let's see. Audio sounds great. Thank you, Sound Engraver. Thank you very much. Let's see if I can scroll down. Do we have any more questions? Or else I'm just going to be continuing on with my ramblings about Thomas Valiant. Let's see. People talking about the race swapping within movies and television. Let's see. Okay, Sound Engraver, I'm finally getting to the point where you said congratulations. Yeah, I think you were talking about the Anvil stuff. Yeah. So, question from, let's see, RJ. Will you soon rule the world of comics? Okay. Hopefully, I will have a long history in comics. That's all I want to say. I don't want to rule the world. I want to make great art. That's what I want to do. So let's see. Buffy says, I'm sure you've had this question asked, but have you heard of the Ripperverse? If so, have you ever considered working together? I did. If you go back and search up my Wednesday videos, I did actually an interview with Young Ripper. So yeah, I certainly have heard of the Ripperverse. He and I talked. Quite honestly, I didn't think that he would come on my show for an interview. We did have an hour interview because most of the bigger names either ignore me or give me non-answers or things like that. And again, I don't fault them for doing that because, I know how much it takes to create and how much effort you have to put into actually connecting with your audience. And there is a level at which you have to go after as many people in your audience as possible, and going down to smaller creators like me is counterproductive sometimes. So people like again Razorfist, just no answer there. I asked, let's see, the critical drinker. He said, sorry, but I got other things on my plate. I asked Ethan Van Sciver. He didn't actually answer that question. He went on to the other questions that I had. So, again, don't fault these people for not wanting to come down to my small little channel and do an interview. But I was surprised, and I was thankfully surprised that Young Ripper wanted to do an interview with me. It was a great interview. We talked about things which were, I think, adjacent to what he talks about on his videos, because it was much more relaxed. We were talking about the positive aspects of creation and his universe and things like that. So yeah, he's incredibly humble and I think thought-provoking individual. So again, I am very much on the bandwagon for Ripperverse, and would suggest that you go out there and check it out. Let's see. More questions. Let's see. Ripperverse. John says Charlie Snogans is an amazing artist to watch and draw. Yeah, he is. Let's see. So yeah, Charlie and I, we connected a long time ago, and he wanted to work with me, but he started with Clint, and then he started drawing online, and people just snatched him up. So but honestly, that's how I found Renzo. So everything worked out in the end. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Frank Miller's take on Batman? I honestly, I don't know. I possess. Let's put it this way. The Frank Miller Dark Knight series. I never got that when it originally came out, but I do own the limited edition signed and numbered by Frank Miller first reprinting, which is a hard copy reprinting of his Batman, The Dark Knight. So, that's in my collection. And I think it's a valuable piece of comic history. But at the same time, I don't think that he ever intended everybody to take that Elseworld story and to run with it as the normal Batman from now on, or take it as their blueprint to try to live up to that kind of story. If he, I don't think he, well, he might have, but for me, I would say it's possible that if he had known that, he wouldn't have actually done that story. So again, this is Frank Miller being creative and doing an Elseworld story. So at the same time, it's good for an Elseworld story, but I think that's where it should have stayed. Because it drove Batman into a much darker place. I like the previous iteration of Batman within the Dark Knight Detective, which you had in the 70s when most of DC was campy and really just stupid. You had this detective, and he was in the vein of Sherlock Holmes. I like that idea of Batman. My character, Kit Fox, which is a smash together of Batman and Wolverine. That's the character that I'm doing with Renzo right now. If you go to the Valiant Heroes campaign, you can see the story, the redemption of Kit Fox, because Renzo wanted desperately to get that character and redeem him because he loved creating it. So we did that, and it's very much in that vein of a mystery to be solved. And so that's where that was going to. All right, I'm only going to, I think, be able to go for about an hour today, so I'll try to get to everybody's questions. Let's see. Scrolling down. You really think these big corporations will allow the IPs into the public domain? I don't know, honestly. With the things that I would say 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, maybe even last year, I would have said no. But with some of the things going on right now, especially in Florida, with the government taking away the special status for Disney, I would say that the days for hoarding intellectual property like Disney's intellectual property might be, its days might be numbered. So I'm much more hopeful than I was even a year ago. Let's see. Let's see. Hey, John's here. John's Longbox. Anybody wants to go see great showcases of comics, older comics, you can head over to John's Longbox on YouTube. It's a great channel. John and I wish we had more time to talk, and hopefully I'm going to be on his channel at some point doing an interview if I can get the time. Let's see. Scrolling down. Let's see if there's any more questions. I'm not sure if some of these questions are for me. If you can put a question mark on them so that I know they're actually for me and you're not just talking to other people, that'd be great. So scrolling down. Scrolling down. John says, in How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, they say that heroes are to be drawn an extra head or two taller. Yes, that's the original proportions of the Tarzan creator. So yeah, they didn't create that. That was something much longer before Marvel's had to draw comics, but they used it, and it got used right up until I think about 10 years ago. So scrolling down. Let's see, scrolling down. RJ wants to crush the mainstream to see them driven before him and hear the lamentations of their women. Well, that would be nice to see. I'm not going to lie. Scrolling down. Let's say, let's see. What's the name of the Thomas Valiant universe? Age verse, Valiant verse is already taken. I don't really have a name for the universe itself. I hadn't really thought about that. Although I do have a lot about the universe written down and backstory and everything. I don't even know what I'd call it. I think it's just the fourth age, because the fourth age is the age of heroes, and I want to bring back these heroes. So that's basically what it is, I guess. RJ, deep thinking can be off-putting for some. You're certainly a deep thinker. Most don't read the thick classic tomes for that extra reason. Well, I'm sure that I will be trying to. I don't want to say mind my audience, because that makes me think of a negative term, but I want to listen to my audience, and if they want something, I don't want to dumb it down for them, but at the same time, I got to be on a level where I'm going to reach as many people as possible and give them what they want. So it's going to take a little bit for me. I'm not the greatest people person in the world, so it takes me a while to understand these things. Hopefully I will have enough support to give that to people. And really, I think the best thing to do is create stories that people love. And that's the best word of mouth that can sell my stories, and hopefully will continue to allow me to write them. So let's see. No problem, John. John's thanking me for the shout out. No problem, John. Let's see. Did I watch Batman versus Superman? Yes, I did. I just thought it was a bad retelling of um, what was it? The Frank Miller book. That's about all. Let's see. What are your thoughts on DC's old war comics? I honestly, I had so many war comics in, well, the collection. It wasn't really my collection. It was more like a family collection when we were kids. I never really read the war comics. I actually like to imitate the art from the war comics. I would like to draw it, but there was a lot of the old war comics were, especially the DC ones like GI Combat. They were compilation stories, so you'd get into it and then have to stop. And it's things like that. I love the old Twilight Zone and things like that. But once you love that story and it just stops within half an hour, I found that very jarring. So, I would say I would appreciate those comics more and more now, because I am buying some of them, and things like Jonah Hex 2, from old bins of Marvel and DC stuff. So I don't know. It's not something that I think that I could ever do myself. But yeah, they certainly have value, to say the least. If not simply being, as I talked to Chuck Dixon, his inspiration for wanting to make comics and things like that. Let's see, scrolling down. Let's see if I have any more questions. Oh, by the way, again, I'll give out a shout out to Sound Engraver as well. Anybody wants to hear some commentaries on art and culture, according to someone who is a composer, you go on over to Sound Engraver's channel. So let's see, scrolling down a little bit. Since you were talking about animation, what are your thoughts on, if you have heard of them, indie web series Has Been Hotel and The Helluva Boss? I have never heard of that. I am sorry. So I'm not really into web series. I try to get as much as possible, because a good reader always reads and takes in as much as they can. But a web series is not something that I'm currently looking at right now. I'm going through the backlog again of rereading, re-listening to really the old Robert E. Howard stuff to help me with the CROM things that I'm doing. Let's see, any future collaborations between you and Chuck Dixon or any of the other Comicsgate personalities? I did ask Chuck if there was a chance that he would want to do a book with me, but Chuck said he said he'd look into it. He said he'd consider it, but he didn't get back to me. So I know that he's a spectacular artist and busy and all that. So again, don't fault him for that in any way. I don't. But he said basically he had to see something within the characters that he would want to tell a story, because if he just tells a story about something that he's paid to do and not want to do, then it's not a good story in his eyes, and he just doesn't want to do that kind of thing anymore, because it's not, I don't know, it's not what he wants within the art that he's producing right now. So who knows whether or not there will be collaborations. Again, I'm collaborating with Don Chin. He is a Comicsgate creator. He did the backup story for Thomas Valiant #2, which we will be doing within the next year. So yeah, there's always people out there. I'm not sure there will be any collaborations between characters, but creators certainly. I'm always open to other creators who are out there and can help sell my books, because they have their own audience and I can help sell theirs. We can help each other out that way by creating stories together. No problem. That's the thing. But again, it's all about connecting. It's all about what kind of audience you have. And I don't want to use people, but at the same time, if we help each other out in that kind of vein, if it's somebody that can help you out, then great. That's great. I mean, Don is, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm using people, because I'm not. I want to connect with people and make sure that we have common interests that we can both serve. But Don is a gold mine, Don Chin, of so many things, of how to create comics, characters, people who previously worked in comics, people who work in comics now. He was the first person to bring, what's his name? Parsenovich, the guy who created basically the Sandman series visually. He was the person who brought him into comics to begin with. So I mean, if you have someone like that you can, or Chuck Dixon, that you can help bring on a story and help each other to create good comics, then yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So let's see. Did I see? I think my feed skipped a little bit. Like I said, I'm probably going to have to go pretty soon, but I'll try to get in as many of these questions as possible. Let's see. TD. Oops. Yeah, here we go. Favorite Marvel DC character? For DC, I really don't know, honestly, because I've never been that big of a DC fan. But obviously, Wolverine is the biggest influence for me. That's my favorite Marvel character, probably my favorite character of all time. Maybe, quite honestly, this is weird, but my favorite character in DC might be OMAC. We go back to the old Jack Kirby OMAC, and even the John Byrne OMAC. I loved that character, and it was just an eye-opening and thought-provoking character. Let's see. Do you have any favorite Comicsgate indie characters? I don't really know. I don't think they've been out long enough or had enough books out for me to have them as favorite characters. But again, I would the books that I own are Don Chin's books, Michael Bancroft's Lucent, stuff like that. I don't even know. Let's see. I do own Hellpree. No, not what is it? I can't even think off the top of my head. Doug Ernst's book. Yeah, and what else do I have? Of course, I have EVS's Cyberfrog, and things like that. So, like again, I don't think they haven't made enough of an impact on me yet. It's going to be the longevity of these things. Who can keep going the longest? That's really my plan when I build something. You planning to make a Western story? I'm not planning to make a Western story, in so much as who knows in the future. But I like to do the Robert E. Howard thing, in that you can actually take a Western and set it in the Conan kind of universe, which is my CROM, the Destroyer universe, very easily. You don't have to change a whole lot. That kind of thing is definitely available. Let's see. Conan's better than Guts. I think that's what you're trying to say there, Oz. I see. I don't know what discussion is happening there. I won't get into the middle of that. I like Conan better. I'll just put it that way. Let's see. Jose says, good afternoon. Just to ask, do you think you could possibly do a review of Galaxy's Edge by John Anspach? Let's see. Think Republic Commandos mixed with Halo. Galaxy's Edge. That does sound familiar, and it's tugging at the back of my brain, but I'm not entirely. No, the thing is that I don't like to review other things for other people. At the same time, I'm not familiar with Galaxy's Edge. It could be a dozen different things that are going through my name or through my mind, because the name is so familiar and probably used in multiple ways by different mediums. I think there's a video game called that, as well as a novel that I'm thinking of. So I'm not entirely sure what exactly that is. And so if it is a small creator, I don't do those kinds of things for small creators, because again, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. We're all about building each other up now. So you can do that your way and I'll do it mine. And hopefully we can help each other out. So let's see. Nathaniel says, a bit off topic, but what is your favorite monster, be it from film, myth, or story? Ooh, favorite monster. I don't even know. Monsters are not a favorite. I don't really know. Because I like the hero killing the monster. So that's me. I'm all about heroes. I'm all about heroes killing the darn monster. So monsters are not really seen as my favorites. So I honestly don't know. But the idea is, I like the idea of monsters that you got in 70s Conan kind of Marvel stories, in the fact that you get abominations that are one-offs. It's not a monster that you're going to ever see again, that kind of thing. So I like those types of monsters more than a monster you're going to constantly see over and over again, even though I do use some of those within my books, to be sure. There are some Greek monsters that are very interesting, and I love to use basically vampire type monsters, harpies. If you see my CROM the Destroyer stuff, so things like that. But again, I don't know if I have a favorite monster. Let's see. Scrolling down. Uh, scrolling down. See if we have any more questions. Do you think the so-called problematic characters like Wolverine or the Punisher can survive in mainstream comics? I don't think they. I think they're dead right now. So no, honestly, that Wolverine that you see in comics right now, it's not the Wolverine from the 1980s and 1990s. It's that character's dead, as far as I'm concerned. When House of X started, they killed those characters, or not House of X. So I think I'm actually going to have to go. But so I think those characters are dead. So um, if you just give me 1 second here, I might have something else I got to do. So I'm not a H.P. Lovecraft fan. No, John, sorry, I'm not. Conan or Cull? Uh, yeah, I think Conan more than Cull, but I'm warming up to Cull. Yeah, I think it's more the adventure western of Conan. Again, I'm sorry to cut it short, but actually someone's knocking at my door, so I will leave it there. It's been an hour, and I want to thank everybody for showing up, and I'll see if I can do an earlier live stream again. Thank you once again, everybody. I hate to cut this short, but I'll have to go. Thank you all.
No matter how many wars you fight, no matter how much blood you shed, no matter how much rage you loose, no matter how many demons you face, no matter how many companions you lose, no matter if our kingdom falls, I know that you will return to me in honor.